As we have learned over the years, even the most perfectly planned and well-constructed movies make mistakes. These mistakes don't really take away from the film, and if anything, they are just another fun thing for fans to look for. We're taking our sharp eye into some of Disney's finest films for this list of movie mistakes. Enjoy the video, let us know what you think, and be sure to subscribe to ScreenRant to stay up to date with all of our new stuff. Before you start, can you name this movie just by looking at these emojis? Hang on to your answer until the end of the video. Here are 10 movie mistakes from perfect Disney movies. Moana. There's no telling how far Disney will go to make a great movie, and by that we mean getting Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to sing a children's song. All jokes aside, 2016's Moana was a hit and presented the world with some fun characters and one of the coolest Disney princesses we've seen so far. It also gave us Maui, and unfortunately for him, he's the subject of our mistake. We all remember the moment where the character jumps through the air, turns into a bird, turns back into himself, and lands gracefully on the raft. If you were looking closely, you could see that Maui was holding his famous hook, but just a few shots later, the hook has disappeared. This would be a cause for concern if the character had actually lost the tool, but it seems like it was probably just an editing slip-up.
Crazy neighbors. I love it!
Zootopia. It's still early, but we have a feeling that Zootopia will end up being one of Disney's most celebrated movies of all time, as it truly tells a fun and imaginative story. While most audience members were likely caught up in the magic of Zootopia, we were able to spot a few little mistakes, and one of them comes when Judy comes back to her apartment after a rough day on the job. The discouraged bunny cop throws her notepad on her table in front of her clock, but when the scene cuts to a reverse shot, the notepad has vanished. It's a rather inconsequential mistake, unless of course Judy was carrying some super important secrets in that notebook.
Rex, come to Papa!
Toy Story 3. If you haven't seen Toy Story 3, do yourself a favor and go watch it immediately, as it truly is Disney Pixar at the peak of their powers. The movie is practically perfect, boasting an impressive 99% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it really is a great example of a movie that anyone of any age can enjoy. When Andy is coming back into his room, the toys quickly run to hide back in the box. Buzz jumps down from the dresser, and we can clearly see that there is one drawer open. But when the scene cuts back to show Andy entering the room, the drawer is magically closed. If you were too busy enjoying the hilarious characters and dialogue in this film to notice this little mistake, we don't blame you.
You know, because thunder always comes after lightning.
Cars. Despite a somewhat disappointing sequel, there is no denying that the original Cars movie is pretty much perfect. However, if you were watching closely, you may have spotted a small mistake in the tractor tipping scene. When Mater shows Lightning the trick, he tips over 2 tractors as examples. A few moments later, McQueen has his turn, and the noise he makes ends up tipping over all of the tractors in the field. The problem, when the scene cuts to a long shot to reveal all the tractors tipping, the 2 that Mater had already flipped over should already be on their backs, but they are nowhere to be seen. This is a very small mistake and didn't hurt the overall film, but it's fun to point it out anyways. Frozen. Without a doubt, 2013's Frozen is one of Disney's most successful movies of all time, and it's pretty hard to find anything wrong with the film. By this point, we all know about the animating mistake where Elsa's braid passes through her shoulder, but we were actually able to spot another slip-up. When Anna and Kristoff are tied together and being chased off the cliff, Anna realizes that the only way to save them is to cut the rope. They fall safely into the powdery snow, but when Anna and Kristoff re-emerge, the rope is nowhere to be found. Just because Anna cut the part connecting them to the top doesn't mean the parts of the rope around their waist would fall or disappear. In the midst of all the action, we can understand if this one slipped by you. It's a small detail, and it's probably best we just let it go.
I won first place!
Me too!
Oh, participation award.
Inside Out. Another film on this list to take home the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature is 2015's Inside Out. The movie took a hilarious but moving look into the psyche and emotional well-being of children, and it really is tough to find anything wrong with this flick. But nobody is perfect, and we were in fact able to spot one little editing error from Inside Out. When Riley has to speak in front of her class, Fear has a nervous breakdown inside of her brain. His papers go flying everywhere, making a serious mess. But not for long. The scene cuts back to Riley quickly, but when it cuts back to the emotions, the papers have vanished. Then again, these papers could be considered imaginary, since they are a construct of Riley's mind. What do you think? Do you think this is a mistake, or a very well thought out moment?
Is it ruffians? Thugs? Have they come for me?
Tangled. 2010's Tangled may not be the greatest movie that Disney has ever made, but it's very good, and it does a mighty fine job of taking the old tale of Rapunzel and making it into a fun children's adventure. Flynn is definitely a fan favorite, but he's just a human man and doesn't have superpowers, which is why this mistake makes no sense. In one of the more dramatic moments, Flynn's hand is visibly shackled up, but then, by the power of love, his shackles miraculously fall off, and he is able to stroke Rapunzel's hair with ease. We're guessing that the emotional moment trumped the importance of accuracy, and if we're being honest, most people were probably too into the love story to notice the animation goof.
Gira, I'm not taking one more step.
The Jungle Book. Taking home the Oscar for visual effects, 2016's live adaptation of The Jungle Book was an absolute triumph for Disney. The studio did some amazing things with CGI and motion capture animation, and the final product was a true cinematic joy. That being said, nobody is perfect, and there were a few moments that clearly slipped past the editing team. After retrieving the honey for his new friend Baloo, Mowgli is covered in bee stings. They look like they hurt a lot, but don't worry too much. Just a few seconds and cuts later, the stings have disappeared completely. We're guessing most people were too busy looking at all the amazingly animated animals to catch this small error, but we spotted it. Finding Dory. The long-awaited Finding Nemo sequel, Finding Dory, brought us on another oceanic adventure, made a boatload of money for Disney, and was overall a pretty great film. One of the best additions to Finding Dory was definitely Hank the Octopus, but we're sad to say that he is at the center of the movie mistake we spotted. Hank has the ability to camouflage into any environment, which is awesome, but when Hank jumps into the coffee pot to disguise himself, something doesn't add up. Hank's body completely fills the coffee pot, which should have caused all the water to spill out. But somehow when Hank is back out of the pot, all of the water remains. Truthfully, this mistake is probably a better option than the alternative, which would have had Dory in an empty coffee pot gasping for oxygen. What do you think? Should they have stayed physically accurate, or was it better this way?
I love you.
The Incredibles. There are a lot of people out there who will still argue that 2004's The Incredibles is the best on this list, and they definitely have some reason behind their opinions. The movie is fantastic and made superheroes cool way before they became the coolest thing in town. But even this great film isn't without its missteps, and we spot a specific moment that doesn't quite add up. When Mr. Incredible is backing the car out of the driveway, he puts his hand on the top of the steering wheel. He backs the car out and makes a turn, but his hand never moves. Back in 2004, self-driving cars were not yet a thing, so we have to think that an editor just probably forgot to animate his hand turning the wheel. And with that, we have made it to the end of our list. Even with all these little mistakes, these Disney movies are still pretty amazing, and some might even say perfect. What do you think is the best animated Disney movie ever made? Let us know all your thoughts down below, and don't forget to subscribe to ScreenRant for more fun videos, like this one. Thanks for watching.